What's up, my wizards? Dev, back again from SPMTG. We got a ton of spoilers today. There's like 17 of these. We're going to try to see how quick we can get through them. And some of them are really interesting. Some of them I can just sort of gloss over because they're really good in limited play, but not much else. So let's go ahead and start. Let's kick it off by talking about maybe the most interesting card of the day. Honestly, this is Erebos' Titan. This is what everyone's talking about. Between this and Infinite Obliteration, Black deck's just having incredible answers for Death Mist Raptor right now. And lots of stuff. I mean, this hurts Delve in a lot of ways. And if you can resolve it against control, they will not often have creatures. And you've got other ways of dealing with their creatures too. Foul-Tongue Invocation, Merciless Executioner. Lots of ways the Black has to make them sacrifice dudes. So I think Mono Black is starting to shape up, especially with something like this. 4 mana, 5/5 that can be indestructible. That's insane. Plus it recurs under certain situations. And there are ways to do it. You know, we've got Tormod's Crypt and Mardu Woe Reaper in the format and a couple of other things. So I think this is definitely a very strong card, and there's a reason it's mythic. So love it. Here is Whirler Rogue. We've seen a lot of cool, artifact things today, and this is sort of the beginning of that. Rogue is fairly interesting, but probably won't do too much in, real constructed play, which is how I feel about a lot of these sort of artifact-centric cards today, to be honest. I'm not really sure how much I'm feeling it, although I do think it's really, really cool, but cool does not a standard staple make. See what I mean? Here's Gearapur Gearcrafter. Gearapur Gearcrafter? That is a hard word to say, we can all agree. Yeah, this is very similar, but not quite as good, I think, as that last card, although this is far more splashable. Again, we'll see good, play in limited. 3 power, 3 mana, spread amongst 2 creatures, all of that, and the same thing with the last creature, 4 power, 4 mana, spread amongst 3 creatures, 2 of which fly. Like, there's a lot going for these cards, especially, again, in limited play. But I just don't think they have the bones for constructed. Now, this is an artifact card that I think might make a case for constructed. This is Artificer's Epiphany, and it's really neat. Like, what? What? Like, 3 mana instant speed draw 2 is not bad at all. And honestly, there are a lot of situations where I don't mind discarding a card. Like, imagine something like this in Sultai. It really wants something like this. 3 mana kind of sounds like a lot. And this reminds me, obviously, of Thirst for Knowledge. It's like another version of that. But I think obviously not quite as good, but still, instant speed, draw 2 with a discard that may benefit you or not have to happen at all, depending on if you control an artifact. So I think it's cool. Let's see, play in older formats. People are saying that. I do not believe so. Here's Chief of the Foundry. In text the other day, I talked about the artifact aggro deck that's been trying to become, like, to breathe itself into life for the last 25 years of Magic. And we've got a couple of cool things, the Savannah Lions artifact creature is really cool, and now this, I think this is more than fine, to be honest. Kind of makes me excited, a 3 mana 2/3 isn't bad, especially considering it's colorless. And look at that. Especially, we've just seen a few creatures that generate, Thopter tokens for you, so it would be effectively generating you, 2/2 flyers, which is super good. So I definitely think that, today, they released a bunch of cards that are in a draft deck. This is the deck you want to draft. Whether it'll make its way into constructed, I'm not sure. A lot of its cards are very overpriced. Here's another one. This is Reclusive Artificer, and again, I think this is really, really neat, I think it's cool that it has haste. That almost pushes it a little bit, but aside from that, I really love that Enter the Battlefield trigger, especially in some older formats. But again, it's priced, I think, far out of that format, or those formats. Again, in limited, if you got a couple of your Thopters out and maybe another stray artifact, dealing 2 to 4 damage when it enters the battlefield is pretty darn good. So, and it's yeah, you take out a creature with this. I wish it was creature or player, but in any case, fine card in limited formats. I think I've said that enough. But I really don't think this has the legs for standard at all. Well, we'll see what we get. Here's Magmatic Insight, and I gotta say, I kind of like it. It reminds me of Faithless Looting in some ways. There are a lot of times we want to discard a land. Obviously, the decks that Faithless Looting goes in doesn't often want to discard lands. It wants to discard, like, fat creatures that can then reanimate, stuff like that. I will say that red, draw 2, discard a land is awesome. It sucks that you have to have the land before you draw the cards, but still, 1 mana draw 2, discard a land. That's That seems fairly strong. So maybe this will see play in some things. I mean, red aggro, like red heroic, is a thing, or at least it's trying to be red-white heroic. So maybe, although it doesn't target anything. But drawing 2 cards is just bonkers. Off 1 mana, drawing 2 cards is nuts. Although this doesn't actually generate any advantage. That's one thing to note. You discard this, you discard the land, you draw 2. So you're not generating advantage of any kind. But these red draw spells that don't really generate advantage, although they look like they do. There's been a few of them throughout history, and this might be the best one, I venture to say. Although Faithless Looting is probably the best one. This is Tragic Arrogance, and like, this card is nuts in some ways. I mean, there are arguments against it and for it. Obviously, the argument for it is everyone saying, like, you get to choose the best stuff you control and the worst stuff they control. Alright, obviously this card is meant for Commander. It's got a really good argument in Commander play. Now in Standard, there are definitely, we've got a lot of creatures that we play in Standard. A lot of decks play tokens. Those are very important. Aggro will get better once Origins comes out. We'll see Goblins be a thing. Possibly white aggro, possibly soldiers. So aggro is the thing. There's going to be a lot of creatures, and we see a lot of attrition decks, or a lot of decks that want to go very long and count on board state. Things with Deathness Raptor, Whisperwood Elemental, Master of the Unseen, those decks. Devotion decks, lots of permanents in those decks. So we're really clogging up the board, and I think this is a great way to leave them with an Elvish Mystic and not much else. Control, it might not resolve against, but even if it does, you're really not going to do much. I mean, Control doesn't have many permanents to begin with. But as far as I can tell, this does not target the creatures. This does not target creatures, as far as I can tell. But in any case, this just looks pretty dumb to me. The arguments against it, obviously, are that it's mass removal that leaves things on their side of the board, which is bad, But I honestly, you choose the best thing you have, the worst things they have. That's pretty hot. So, do I think it'll see play in Standard? I think someone will try to make it a thing. I don't know if it'll quite get there. But this is such a broken looking thing that I wouldn't be surprised if something insane happened with this. Here's Zendikar's Royal. This is a really weird enchantment right here, but goes really cool with Animist Awakening. We spoiled that yesterday. That's a really cool card. I think this is awesome with that. And a few other things. I mean, there's stuff that ramps our lands, and I think it'll be even more, especially when we get to Zendikar. So this looks interesting, but 5 mana for an enchantment that doesn't like immediately affect anything. I think, obviously, this probably won't see any sort of constructed play at all, but in Limited it's kind of neat. I'm just not really sure. Looks bomby enough, but it sort of also looks to me like a trap. So I don't think that I like this, although I am intrigued by it. All but one of the cards I have left to spoil I think will see only play really in Limited. And then the other card I think might just see Limited play, but it's so cool that I'm going to save it for last. This is Fleshbag Marauder, a reprint. We've got a copy of this in Merciless Executioner, for all intents and purposes. I think they're different creature types. But this is cool. I'm glad we have this in a limited environment. Here's Blightcaster. I believe we've seen this before as well. We've seen a lot of support for enchantment decks, but in Standard, this isn't going to make it. Now, this is a limited bomb, and maybe a one-of in these sort of budget enchantment decks that we'll see at like F&M and stuff like that, but I don't really see Blightcaster making too much of a splash. Here's Auramancer. We've also seen this before. Again, limited enchantment support, not much else. I don't think this will get played in the sort of standard enchantments deck, especially with Starfield of Nyx being a thing, because it does everything this does better. I'm not a big fan, although limited, yeah, if you want to play the draft enchantments deck, go ahead and do that. I think they're crafting a pretty good draft environment with this set, Here's Anointer of Champions, the creature you wished was a soldier, but probably still wouldn't be good enough even if it was. Again, maybe limited play, I don't really like playing that many 1-drops that aren't super aggressive in draft. And sealed, I don't like really playing 1-drops that don't produce mana. So I'm just not really a big fan of this, and I'm going to go ahead and just skip over it. Here is Stalwart Aven, yet another crazy limited card. I think in limited this is actually pretty darn good, having a 2/4 flyer after it gets through for damage, and just the 1/3 flyer for 3 isn't god awful. That's probably fair. So not this obviously won't see any constructed play whatsoever, but a decent limited drop. Here's Somberwald Alpha, which looks really good at first, and then you're like, but also this and that and blah blah. It costs too much. It just doesn't do the things you really want it to do. I'm really interested in that first ability, but obviously again, no standard play. In limited, I think this is kind of ridiculous, but I'm just not seeing how this will be a force in standard at all. Here's Sky Snare Spider, and it looks really cool. again, limited, absolute top of the curve bomb, and you want to play a couple of copies of these, I think. Vigilance and Reach on 6/6 is absolutely nuts. And you know, I was pondering maybe in like super budgety decks, this is a good answer for, you know, dragons and stuff like that. We see a lot of that in the format, but all in all, I don't think it has. I don't think it has what it takes, but obviously. But all things considered, in limited, this is just absolutely nuts. And this is that last card I was talking about I'm really interested in. This is Blood Cursed Knight. Blood Cursed Knight is really, really cool. I like the name, I like the artwork, I like that he's Orzhov. That's my favorite guild, in case you were wondering. Orzhov's my favorite guild. And yeah, he's a 3-mana 3/2 on his own. And if you control an enchantment, he can become a 4/3 with lifelink. A 3-mana 4/3 with lifelink if you have a pacifism or something. Like that's pretty darn good to me. First turn Myth Realize, into third turn this. Sounds good. There's so many cool things that we can do that don't necessarily lose us initiative or board presence or anything in the first couple of turns that I think make this guy really good. I like in a neat little, this is goofy because Abzan is going to just still stay whatever it is right now because it's very popular, very powerful deck. But I like a sort of Abzan enchantments where it's like first turn Myth Realize, second turn Herald, third turn this. It look pretty good, honestly. So I like this guy a lot. I like the flavor of him. I like the cut of his jib. I like the cut of his hair. And honestly, I think that I'm going to try to play this guy. I've been looking at the green-white, or, you know, in Standard I was making a black-white enchantments deck before Origins came out. This goes directly into that. I think this is a very good creature. So, again, I don't think he's, like, absolutely amazing in Standard or anything, but I am, if you can't tell, smitten by this guy. I really like this creature. So let me know what you think about all these cards as usual. As usual. Let me know what you think. What's your favorite thing today other than Erebos' Titan, because that card is absolutely nuts. I think that's the best thing we saw all day. So again, you know, if you have any comments on these, maybe something I missed on any of those, you know, make sure you let us know. If you haven't subbed yet, do that, because we got Goblins coming up probably tomorrow, late tomorrow possibly, but tomorrow definitely. And yeah, I'm Dev from SBMTG. Please remember, like, share, comment, subscribe. We feel the love every time you like. We feel the love every time you share. So yeah, do that if you enjoyed the content. Actually, even if you didn't enjoy the content, go ahead and hit thumbs up. That would mean a lot to me. But in any case, I'm Dev from SBMTG. I'll see you later. Thanks for watching, my wizards.